Hey guys, I'm B.
And I'm Sasa.
And we are Petty and Plus Size.
Plus Size Podcast.
Beautiful B is not available to join me tonight. Unfortunately, she had something come up that she really needs to take care of, so she will not be on this week's episode. But I'm so blessed and fortunate that D agreed to be our special guest this week.
Absolutely. She will be missed truly and greatly.
Very much so, yeah.
But she will be back. Don't you worry, everybody. She will be back badder and better.
Yes. Hi, I'm Sasa.
I am D.
And this is Petty and Plus Size. Cheers.
Yes.
Okay, so today I am joined by beautiful D.
Hello.
Hi, D. So you guys can find D here. Editing magic is happening here. D is a mutual of both me and V. I think you've known V a little bit longer than myself.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so why don't you just start by kind of like telling us your backstory, like your, where you come from, kind of your history in both the social media space and just in general.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so I just wanted to come on here and just say, hey, I'm 24, from California, born and raised in SoCal throughout my whole life. In the space of the community, personally, what I do is I'm a micro-influencer. I wouldn't consider myself anything like huge or crazy, more so just like I do this for fun. It's not anything I do like, super crazy. It's just more so something I do to spread positivity for my end on my space for what I feel should be within the space of community for plus size. Personally, that's just my preference. I love being able to uplift baddies, to bring everybody up, and to make sure that people feel welcome and included in the space. That's just kind of my vibe.
Yeah.
As far as my background from where I've came from, I'm a college student, so period. I'm going in for my associates for business administration.
Okay.
And that's what I'll be doing. So that's honestly kind of my vibe. I'm trying to get into running a bakery and doing all those kind of things and just having a little sweet life with the little sweet life with friends.
I love that. So how long ago did you start your social media?
Social media, I would say I've been on my platform for about 3 years now.
Okay.
Where I've just been kind of like posting like random stuff. Like I said, nothing out of the blue where it's like I want to be trending or things like that. Just more so audios I find to be funny and audios I find to suit me for what I want my content to be and how I view, just how I view. That's really it.
Yeah, got you. Okay. Tell us a little bit more about, like, obviously, you're a plus size girly, as am I. Like, talk to me about what your childhood was like as a plus size. Have you always been plus size? Is that something new for you?
No, I've always been plus size. So growing up, I've always been in my space, in my community, from my experience. I've always been the tall girl and the chunky girl, even though I am now short and chunky, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I grew up being the kind of the biggest one in the class, kind of the one who always ended up being the one who was standing out the most because I was the biggest girl. And just that's kind of what my space was for a long time, of just understanding, navigating through how I felt through being plus size, through not accepting myself for a long time to now accepting myself for who I am and loving myself.
Yeah.
And being able to actually be in a better space for myself as an adult rather than I was as a child.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So, like, now you feel like you've come more into your own.
For sure. And I'm still, even though I'm still young, I'm still discovering more and more as I go on. But I definitely am building up a good foundation for myself where I want to be able to be proud of what I have and proud of who I am, which honestly, that's what I'm working towards. And I'm very grateful to say I'm at a good start because I'm very grateful to be where I am now versus where I was.
Yeah. So let's talk about it, talk about that, because obviously, you and I are getting to know each other, and I didn't really know too much about your story. But before, we started filming, you kind of like talked to me about your story and things like that. So let's get into today's topic. Quick trigger warning. So today's topic is on the heavier side. We're going to be talking about some domestic violence, especially as it pertains to being a plus size person. And I know that that can be really triggering for a lot of people, myself included. So at any point, if you do feel like you need to step away or come back to the podcast, this episode, please feel more than free to do that. Okay?
Absolutely.
So why don't you introduce today's topic, Dee, and tell us what we're going to be talking about?
Okay, well, today's topic is going to be talking about domestic violence and how that can affect a person, not just a person who's plus size, but a person in general who is in a relationship with somebody who doesn't know how to handle being worth more within your own mind rather than being worth what that person wants you to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, within my own personal experience of my realm of understanding and talking, being able to express and advocate DV, I myself have gone through a serious situation where I went through a lot. I was 19 when I went through this, so I was very young as well.
Very young. Yeah.
I was almost engaged. Well, I was engaged. I was almost married.
Mhm.
Within that almost 4 year span of being in that relationship, I had lost myself. I lost my spark. I lost who I wanted to be as a person, my independence, my dignity. And honestly, it really deteriorated me into a point where I didn't even recognize who I was anymore. To the point where I let myself go and allowed myself to be controlled by another person in a space where I thought I was okay, but really I wasn't okay.
Mm.
And to a point where I was almost 600 pounds. I know I'm a big girl now, and I'm not saying no disrespect to anybody who is going through that or going through something along those lines, but for myself personally, this is my experience. Almost 600 pounds, immobilized, wasn't able to work, wasn't able to cook, clean myself, things along those lines. It was very scary. Like, it was a very scary experience, and then having to go through being out of that relationship and pulling myself out of that to working on from being homeless to working up to where I am now has really changed me as a person within that time frame.
Yeah, wow. You should really be proud of yourself because that is really, really difficult to get through. So like, you know, as like a plus size girl, I think like there's a fine line between finding somebody who appreciates a plus size body and finding someone who wants to keep you plus size because then they feel like they can control you.
Exactly.
So like, as because you don't just get to 600 pounds because you're overeating a little bit, right? It's like a lot of like how like in what so in the 3 years, if you don't mind me asking, of course,
No, of
in the
course.
3 years that you were in this relationship, you started at what weight and you ended up at 600 pounds in how long of a time? 3 years?
So within that time frame, when I had met the person when I was 19, at
Okay.
that point I want to say 300 and
Okay.
360 pounds. So I was already a
Okay.
bigger girl as I was anyway.
Yeah.
And then going from being a bigger girl to being a much, much larger girl to
Yeah.
I was at almost 600 pounds. So I was about 584,
Okay.
584 and some change. So it was still a good significant amount of weight. And
Yeah.
then from being from that to coming to losing all of that within a 2 year time frame, which is crazy to me.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and naturally too, no offense, but no GLP-1s, no like
Yeah.
no pills, no weight loss surgery, just naturally through myself, my diet,
Wow. Let's give it up for her. Let's give it up. Yes. Because you're not just losing the weight, you're healing from a traumatic situation on top of losing the weight. And I think like I don't know. We'll talk about this after, but you and I have very similar stories. So, okay, so like basically in the course of 3 years, you gained like 300 pounds.
Correct.
Damn near 300 pounds. Okay,
Damn near
wow.
you.
Yeah, so like your ex-fiance, was he like encouraging you to overeat or
Yes. So he would
okay,
encourage me to overeat, and it would also be a thing that I had comfort with food because at that point he
same.
had taken me
Yeah.
away from everything in my life, my family, my friends, the people I
Mm,
loved. He isolated me and on top of everything on top of that. and then
Wow.
had me within his little circle of people. So on top of that, I was depressed as well, going through so many things and going through all the motions and figuring out why me, why him, all these things. And it just became to a point where it was it was too much, and I just couldn't anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's very common. I think like it's more common than people think, you know? And it's like, again, like we live in such a patriarchal society. It's like people still would want to blame you for gaining the weight, not knowing everything that's behind the scenes of it.
Right.
I'm assuming, you know?
No, of course.
So like, okay, now is like the trigger warning, you know. So in terms of like the actual domestic violence, was it like physical, or was it more like emotional, mental mind games?
So for those who don't understand what domestic violence actually can be, it's not just being physically having hands laid on, even though that's part
Yeah.
of what I did deal with. Domestic violence can also consist of mental, financial, intellectual, uh, and other different categories that people don't even realize can be considered domestic violence, which is a lot that I had to learn for myself
Yeah.
after going through that situation, and also realizing that I just wasn't allowed to. But for myself personally, it was a mix of all of it, basically. I got a little taste of everything, whether it was having hands put on me, whether it was being ridiculed, whether it was not having my access to money or things along those lines, or having my money that I made for myself being taken and being used for things that shouldn't have been used for, and things along those lines. So it was a lot.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that sounds like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then like on top of that, it's like a cycle because it's like you're an SSBBW at that point, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like the society as a whole views fat women in a negative light, but especially when you are supersized BBW, you know, where you are on the bigger size, 500, 600 pounds, there's this idea that those type of people are just lazy. And it's like, I think that there's a lot of trauma associated with binge eating, you know, and oftentimes people don't just binge eat because they're lazy. It's because that's usually their only comfort, you know. I think it's just as important to focus on your experience, strength, and hope as it is to focus on like the negative side of things. So like what finally, you know, kind of like prompted you to want to leave and make that change for yourself?
So what ended up prompting me to end up wanting to make the final move of leaving, I ended up having a mental breakdown because I also suffer with mental health problems, and that was the other thing that I ended up dealing with was mental manipulation as well. Not just on the
Mm,
aspect of being like name called and all these things. It
right.
was to the point where my partner at that time, he ended up having in his terms, a worse mental illness than I did.
Oh.
And he made it seem like because he was going through something worse than I was, that my mental health wasn't valid. And because of that, I had a mental breakdown. I was put in a 5150 hold. And
Mm,
yeah, so sorry, trigger warning. I was put in a 5150 hold, and I was there for about 3 days in the hospital, just contemplating my life, figuring out what I wanted to do, reevaluating. And I was like, no, this is not what I'm going to put up with. I'm not going to end up going up with this. It is not what I want. And
yeah.
that's not for me. This is not the kind of person I want to be. And even though it came to a point where there was a lot of messiness to go along with the ending of how things went, at the end of the day, I still chose to leave. I still chose to leave, and I still chose to do better by me, because that's what matters. That is, at the end of the day, I'm doing
Right.
best for me instead of what's best for that other person.
Right. Period. I love that. Yeah, and sometimes you know, you can't pour from an empty cup, you know, and like it's tricky when you're with someone and you are in a DV situation because they do isolate you from everybody. So you kind of like burn bridges from like your friends and your family. And so when you are ready to leave, it's like you're looking around and nobody's there, you know, because you have burned bridges with them, you know. So
Yeah, for sure.
coming out of that situation, um, like did you feel like you had a support network, or did you feel like you were kind of like just figuring things out on your own?
I had a little bit of both. So even
Okay.
though I was very much doing a lot of majority things on my own, because obviously I'm the one who lost the weight. I'm the one who went to the shelters. I'm the one who did the things, who had to survive to make sure that I was safe for the night, that I was this and that for the night. You know, I was good. I was showered. I was all the things. The biggest help I can always thank for when it came to that situation was my friend. I'm not going to disclose her name because out of privacy purposes, but
Yeah.
my really good friend, she negotiated with my ex-partner saying, hey, because my ex-partner wouldn't even allow me to get my stuff. He literally kicked me out and decided he wanted to just take all my stuff and not let me have anything besides what I had on me, which is my purse. That was it. I wasn't allowed to have any of my belongings, any of this and that. It was crazy. So she negotiated with him to get my stuff, and I was able to grab majority of my stuff for what I needed, even though I left a couple things behind, and he took a couple of things that were very important. But at the end of the day, I made it work, and without her support, I would not be where I am today. So I'm very blessed
Yeah.
and very grateful that she was the angel and still is the angel she is today.
Amen.
I'm
Yeah.
so blessed.
Oh, that just gave me chills because like it's so true. Like I feel like God really sends you angels when you're in those like circumstances where like you really do feel like so alone, and
Yes.
sometimes it's the people that you may not even think are going to show up for you, and it's like, yeah, I love that. That's so
Exactly. And
good.
at that point, I'd only known her for not even a year. Like, her and I were only friends for like maybe 6 months at that point, and
Yeah.
she still stood by my side, like being my friend, being supportive, and she's family to me now, to the point where I love that girl. Like,
Yeah, I
she's a
love
savior.
that. Aw, that's beautiful. So, like, okay, so you made it through this situation. How long ago was it that you guys had broken up?
We had broken up from now.
Yeah, like how long ago from now? Yeah, like when was that?
How
Like
long?
a year
So
ago,
we
two?
broke up. It'll be almost 2 years that we've broken
Okay.
up. It'll be 2 years in September.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well,
Mhm.
kudos to you
Thank
for
you.
prioritizing yourself, because it really is not easy. Um, and is there any like, as someone who's gone through this with hindsight, is there any advice or anything that you would give to other plus size women? And it's like, okay, look, we all know that abuse can happen to anybody of any size. That
Yeah.
being said, this is called petty and plus size because we are putting a spotlight on the plus size community. The
Yes.
plus size community, I feel, is very much targeted and preyed upon by these people because they feel like plus size women will not stand up for themselves.
Oh,
So
100%.
we're not going to keep giving the disclosure of like, oh, anybody can deal with this. We know that, but we're talking about big women because that's what we are promoting. So it is what it is. If you feel some type of way about it, go find a different podcast. But um what would you like, do you have any advice or any warning signs or anything that like looking back like you kind of like would give to somebody who may be watching this thinking like, I wonder if I'm in this situation too?
The biggest piece of advice I can give: do not confuse love bombing for love.
Yeah.
Do not confuse that. Do not get that twisted, because at the end of the day, somebody can say they love you, say all these things, make it look pretty, make it like a Disney movie. It's not. Life is not
Yeah.
a Disney movie. Life
No.
is life, and it'll kick you in the ass. And if you can't handle that with somebody and suffer with somebody and love somebody who you can suffer with,
Yeah.
don't do it.
I haven't really talked about this publicly, so I'm going to try my best not to get emotional, but it is like a very like emotional thing when you go through something like this because it really changes you forever. Like that's the thing like a lot of people don't understand is like domestic violence changes you forever, and
100%.
you will carry it for the rest of your life. Whether you meet someone new or whatever, you're always going to carry that. So kind of share a little bit more about my story. So back in 2018, I dated someone, and I, for the first time, experienced domestic violence. Again, it was the cycle of love bombing, and then you do something that's not to his liking, and then he would put hands on me. And then it was the love bombing and the promises that this will never happen again. all while isolating me from all my friends, all my family, controlling my eating. My ex was like the opposite. It was like I was at my thinnest that I had ever been, because it was very much like, you can't eat this, you can't eat that. Like, he was controlling my eating 100%. Emotional exhaustion, the stepping on eggshells, the, waking up not knowing what mood he's going to be in. Another thing that I think also like doesn't really get talked about a lot is the control over sleep. And it was just like he wanted to keep me in a state of exhaustion so that I wasn't able to like make coherent decisions.
Right.
And so like whenever I had friends who would like be worried about me, or family members who were worried about me, I was being convinced that they were crazy, that, like they just didn't want to see me happy, this and that, whatever. So I finally left this situation. Luckily, he moved to Michigan, so we were physically apart. And I think like being physically apart was like the greatest gift, because I was able to like finally have space from him and realize like, oh, this is insane. Like, I don't need to be with this person. Like, I am not myself. Like you said, lost my spark, everything, Imagine what a mind fuck it is. The same person who's having sex with you at night is abusing you in the morning. Like, it is such a difficult thing to navigate. And so like I ended up deciding to break off the relationship once he moved away. I took like 3 years off from dating, and just like really dove into like my own self, went into therapy, started working out a little bit more, like. And then at the same time, like, because my food had been restricted so much, I kind of started back into my binge eating patterns. So I have been diagnosed with binge eating disorder. That's something I've dealt with since I was little. And after we broke up, it was like a thing of like, well, I'm just gonna eat whatever now. I've been doing keto for 3 years. I'm tired of this, grandpa. I'm gonna start like eating all the carbs I want, everything. And I gained a lot of weight in a very short amount of time. New job. And at the new job, I ended up meeting someone new. And without going into too much detail, this person was completely different from everyone else that I had ever dated. Like, completely different. And so having a new experience where I'm dating someone that's not like anybody else that I've ever dated for the first time, it was like, there was like almost like a safety there. And so I ended up opening up to this person about my DV situation that I had with my ex before. And we started dating, and this person had a child, and the child was really young when we started dating, like 8 months old. And so we were dating for like 3 years, and we decided to get engaged, and we were living together. And mind you, like, we had gotten into like little arguments here or there, but it had never like been any situation similar to my previous ex, Yeah, my ex fiance, we had kind of like gotten into it over the phone, whatever. Child, I was taking on that parent role, which I was fine with because I loved my stepson. But it was just like a lot of pressure. Also, with hindsight, I realized that I was also being financially abused, because on top of me driving 2 hours each way to work every day, I was paying all the bills. I was paying my portion of the rent, but like also the electricity bills, the gas bill, the internet bill, the groceries, like everything I was paying for, because I made more money. But at the same time, like, this person and I met at the same job. They just chose not to get a better job after they left that original job, Got into an argument, and basically, without going into like all the details, because it really is like kind of triggering for me to talk about, we got into an argument, and I was like being spoken to in a very disrespectful way, where like my ex was using like the bitch word and calling me cunt, and like all of these things that like is not okay for me. And so I did take my engagement ring off, And I said, I'm leaving. I'm going to my mom's house. I need space. It wasn't we're broken up forever. It was, I need space. This is not healthy. And I'm not going to be in this situation, you know?
Yeah.
So when I went to walk out the door, I was body slammed to the floor, and was brutally assaulted for 6 hours. And it was horrible. Like,
Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
Yeah,
so
like, and
sorry.
I don't want to like go into all the details because it really is like so traumatizing. Sorry, girl.
No. Don't you be sorry.
Yeah. I haven't really talked about this on my platform too much just because like it is so private, you know, that these things are important to talk about, you know, because there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of shame associated with going through domestic violence where you feel like it's your fault or like, you know, whatever. So
Parts of my story I don't even share because if I do, I get way too choked up to where I can't even process anymore. Like
yeah.
trust me, the fact that you're sharing as much as you're sharing not only shows how strong you are and resilient you are, but it shows how secure you are with yourself now, knowing that you're worth so much more than what that person gave to you and what that person had to offer you. And you're worth so much, honey. You are
Thank
worth
you.
so much. You are all that in a bag of chips. Don't you even worry about it.
Like looking back, like I'm just like, I really did that. Like I really like you have to claw your way out. I lost all my weight naturally as well. I've lost 75 pounds now. And I just like have really like poured into myself. Like I've had situationships, I've had like, you know, different things, but I have not been in a serious relationship because I will not deal with any fuck shit at all. Like I run an extremely strict program and there's a reason for that. You know what I'm saying? And I think like as plus size women, men in particular feel like you owe it to them to like we should be grateful when they give us attention. And then like I think it really pisses a lot of men off that not only will I not let them do whatever they want, I'm also fat. And so it's like in their minds like I should be just happy that they're talking to me, and that's not going to be the case. And so like for me, in terms of like what I would say to somebody who potentially is seeing signs of any kind of domestic violence, and like Dee said, you know, it's not always so overt. It's not always somebody slamming you to the floor, or, you know, doing this or doing that. Sometimes it's things like asking you to skip time with your friends so that you can spend time with them only. Sometimes it's them asking you to give them your bank records or asking to have access to your account or telling them that you have to share their password with you. You are allowed to have boundaries. And if your partner is not accepting your boundaries, it is because they are trying to control you. And I always say, like, I would rather be single for the rest of my life than ever deal with someone who could put me in harm's way again. You know? And I think, like, as plus size women, we have to be okay with being alone and walking away, you know, because we are targeted, and that's just what it is. I'm not saying it's right. Obviously it's not right, but that's just, you just have to be aware of that, you know. And I think the more that we pour into ourselves and pour into our female friendships, you know, and that's another reason why V and I started this podcast, because we wanted to amplify the voices of other plus size women, you know. We are both very much girls. We want to see other women win, you know. It's not about us. It's about bringing light to the community, you know. And I think decentering men in my life and like really pouring into my female friendships has healed a lot of that, you know. Like if someone's trying to isolate you, if someone's telling you that you don't need your friends, do not listen to them and run as far away from them as you can. because they are trying to isolate you so that they can control you. You know, because if all you're hearing is one side of things, you're going to believe it, you know? So, yeah.
I feel so inspired.
Yeah. Well, I'm inspired by your story. And like I said, you know, our stories are very similar. And I'm 10 years older than you. I'm 34, you know, so I see a lot of myself in you. And I just think like you are such a bright light. And this is merely a chapter in your story, and it does not define you. And in a way, it's a blessing that you experienced this so young, because now you get to take this experience with you and never let it happen again.
Agreed.
You know?
And I feel like a lot of young people take advantage of that. They take advantage of not going through hardships sooner rather than going through hardships later and just saying, oh no, I'm so lucky, oh no, I'm so lucky, when really in reality, life is never going to be easy. There is, like you were saying, there's no, like how there's no play-by-play for a relationship, there's no play-by-play for life. There is no guideline, there's no manual, there's no chapter book, there's no something out in the world to define what life is. Life is what you make of it. And if you're not going to make life what you want to make of it, what are you doing?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, before we close out, we always like to ask our guests what they would say to their younger selves. So what would you say to younger D?
First of all, younger D would be getting the biggest hug from me, because that little girl deserves nothing but love, nothing but attention, and nothing but the care in the world she deserves. Trust me, she really deserved it.
Yeah.
What I would say to her is that you deserve to be nothing but the star you are. You truly are a shining star in the light that you will always be. And don't ever let anybody burn that flame.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. So before we completely close out, we are going to do our petty clip of the week. Since Dee is our special guest today, she chose a petty clip of the week, so let's watch it.
Trying to take advantage of a fat girl in 2026 is gonna get your feelings hurt once you realize she not as easy as you think she is. I don't know who started that lie, but big girls ain't easy. That's why some men feelings be so hurt when they get rejected by them. Oh, I ain't want your fat ass no way. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You just thought it was gonna be easy because she was fat. And this coming from a dude who normally talks to bigger women. You get what I'm saying? I've had some women that bite, and I've had some big women that told me, boy, get your ass out my face. But see, you would know they weren't easy if you talked to them more than what you did. If you didn't talk to them only when you needed something, you will realize that a lot of them actually have standards. A lot of them actually have morals and want to be treated like a human being. Think you finna get some money from them? No, sir. Think you finna drive that car and go wherever you want to while she sit at home? Nope, they not going for that, bro. I'm telling you from experience, don't fool with a big girl thinking that shit sweet, bro. Because it's not, man. It's not. Fool with her more often and you will see you just had a bird brain. It wasn't about her size. It was her mentality. For real, for real.
I chose that clip personally because I felt like it had a really big say-so in a little bit of what we were talking about today. More so about that women have standards. Women are not just pliable to whatever you want to make them, especially plus size women, because women who are plus size have a voice, have a say-so, have opinions, feelings, just like everybody else does. Skinny, fat, whatever you want to be. Do not fool yourself and do not fool others by trying to make yourself into a perspective of someone else that you want to be. Everyone's going to have their own perspective of who you are. Don't get it twisted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. People assume because you're plus size that you're going to just put up with a lot, let them drive your car, cook for them, give them money, let them hit whenever they want. And it's like, no, we're not doing that. Sorry, we're not doing that.
No, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. All right, lovely. Well, this is really powerful. And I just know there's going to be a lot of women and men, because abuse does happen to men too, you know, and I think that's important to note. But I think a lot of people are going to relate to this. And I just really I literally called her like 3 hours ago and asked her if she would do this with me. But I just really appreciate you being so willing to share your story. It's a very obviously emotional and vulnerable thing to talk about. And I just really applaud you for being so young and yet so wise and just really resilient and strong. And we're so blessed to have you on the podcast and just appreciate you being so vulnerable. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. Trust me, I know V may not be here right now, but I appreciate both of you for having me because I know it's respectively just as much her as it is you. Because trust me, you guys are a team, you guys are awesome, and you guys are amazing at what you do. The space here is beautiful, and honestly, I'm very blessed and very honored to have been asked to be able to join. So thank you guys so much for your guys.
Aw, thank you. Yay. All right, guys. Well, that was our 9th episode of Petty and Plus Size. So crazy. Thank you. And please join us on our watch party, which is going to be happening tomorrow, Monday. I don't know what day, August 3rd, I think. Yes, August 3rd at 10:30 p.m. on our TikTok live. This is the TikTok account. And we're also on YouTube and Instagram. So those are everything is Petty and Plus Size. That's our handle across all platforms. So we'll catch you there. See you next time. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.